We have with us Jeff Nebeker, Brent Spath, Janelle Seeley, Carrie Kirk, and what's your name, Dave? David Coons. Turn that around so I can see it. So we have a full council with us here tonight, and I'm Mayor Kathleen Alder. So we will start with an opening prayer. If there's anyone in the audience that would like to say it, we give that opportunity. If not, I will say it. Our Father in heaven, we're grateful to come before thee today. We're so grateful for this opportunity in this free country to have a meeting that concerns the citizens in this community. We're grateful for that opportunity and pray that it will continue. We're grateful for this beautiful weather that we're having, that we can have moisture and that we will be able to water crops this summer. We are grateful for those who are willing to serve and those who are willing to participate with us. We ask thee to bless families as we're away from them, that they will be safe. These things we pray for in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen.
And Janelle Seeley will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Please stand. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, thank you all. We will move right into council reports. Anybody want to start first? Carrie, you want to? Okay, David, go ahead.
Well, my report is nothing really going on with mosquito abatement. I think spraying will be starting soon, but we've got a meeting coming up tomorrow, which will maybe clarify some of that and see what's going on in that arena. They've got new equipment, new spray, and everything's ready to go. So just waiting for the bugs to come out. I've got a couple new projects up on the Just Serve website, some canyon cleanup and some graffiti we found late last fall at Von Bear Park behind the restrooms. And so that's a painting cleanup project that could be done there and more to follow. So
we're asking for people who would volunteer to help do that.
Right, who would volunteer to paint. We'll provide the paint. And just, it's got to be on a little bit warmer day just so that it can dry and cure correctly. So if it's too cold, we will hold off till it's warmer. But I think we're close enough. We could start getting
Depends on the
people
day,
lined
right?
up. Yeah, we could set it up. And then I, with several of you, also attended the ULCT mid-year conference. That was pretty awesome. Some highlights. I liked the keynote speaker, Arthur Brooks. He is a Harvard professor, author. I listened to one of his books on the way down just to get a feel for who he is and what he likes to discuss. And that was my entertainment on the way to St. George. And I guess a highlight would be I got to thumb wrestle Mayor Alder in a conflict mini training on conflict resolution.
And my long fingernails were
fun.
They were a liability.
I could have gotten stabbed. It was a little dicey, but and then Brent, I think, about broke the lady's arm sitting next to him. He looked pretty strong.
She was fast.
Yeah, she was quick. So, but yeah, that was a good opportunity to sit in some of the breakout sessions. We talked about some of the ones I went to were focused on housing, which is kind of more where my interests lie. And yeah, I think that's about it for me.
Cool. Thank you.
Thank you.
Last Saturday, I headed up the Easter egg hunt with the youth council. It's so fun to put them to work. We do a sign up for our Easter egg hunt, and we had 150 kids signed up for the 11 o'clock and 150 for the 12 o'clock, which was our max. So we serviced at least 300 kids. How many extra come, I don't know, but it keeps it at least a little bit controlled and makes it so that everyone leaves having had a really great experience and plenty of eggs and lots of candy. So that was something that I had been working on and enjoy doing. I read over the budget, which was a fun 60-page read, and
Pre-tentative budget.
the
so
pre-tentative,
it will be public.
the draft, and I gave Ryan some feedback that was mostly just editing notes. He does such an incredible job that it'll be great that when it comes out to the public. I continue to work with Ryan on ideas for acquiring park space, park property, which is a high priority. I attended a mental health summit that was put on for teens by Pause Wellness, a local nonprofit organization. And I feel that mental health is like one of the epidemics of our time, and anything we can do to support citizens with their mental health can bless us all. So, I give my gratitude to Janelle for working on the Healthy Cities designation, which also addresses that. I have the goal of responding to every citizen's email, so I continue to do that, and I hope that residents feel heard as they reach it out. Next Meters business here in Providence is having an open house this Friday in 2 days that I will be involved with. They will also be doing a drone show that the public is invited to. So, so encourage those who are interested to come and enjoy that. You can sit in the Next Meters parking lot and have what feels like almost a private drone show. And then I've met with the Sauerkraut Days Committee and just invite those who are interested in making our community a better place to consider volunteering and helping Nicole Bone with that wonderful effort that she's putting forth to modernize the tradition and of this Providence celebration. So that's my 2 cents.
Thank you.
They meet on the first Monday, right?
Yeah, first Monday. Except next month, it's second Monday.
And the meeting is here in this building.
On the
Starts at
7.
7 o'clock. Okay.
I guess I'm skipping you. You're last.
Yes, I'll be last.
Since our last meeting, I spent about half of it traveling, enjoying spring break and out and about with my family. So that was nice. I have done some more things with the health department, with the Cache Communities That Care. They're doing some prevention work with substance abuse with teenagers. I went to the Easter egg hunt. It was very fun. I was sure to give lots of credit to the youth council. People think that I did something, but I didn't. Carrie did it. Carrie did all of it.
Carrie does great.
And it was great. And the community loves to gather and get together, and that's fun. I've been working a lot with the library. In fact, met with the library and the county and River Heights this morning. And we're working on making some improvements to our contract with the county regarding the city's facilities and the county library services there. So we'll give more updates maybe in a few weeks on some changes there. And then I have a fiber meeting tomorrow down in Lehigh with a bunch of cities that have their own internet and fiber, and had some resident meetings and some syncing up and training with Ryan. And they've also started delving into the tentative budget draft. And so Ryan does a ton of work there. He does a great job. That's what I've been working on.
Thank you. Brent?
This past month, as you all had, excuse me, I became interested in the relationship that we have with our garbage operators, Clean Slate, and I've talked with Ryan extensively about it. Just talked with Ryan and the mayor down in St. George about it, trying to understand the contract that we have and the relationship we have. And I even to the point traveled to Tremont to see what the situation was that was brought to my attention. And I really feel like that for the first years of operation, I think we got things well managed and well under control as we talked about certain aspects of it. And as Ryan mentioned and the mayor mentioned, was as we go along, we'll certainly fine tune things. We'll take a look at what needs to be fine tuned, but we've got a good deal going presently in the situation, but there is some fine tuning, and we talked about that and things that need to be addressed, and so I think that we've got it well in hand. I too attended the Utah League of Cities and Towns meetings in St. George, and was very impressed with the programs that we had down there, the breakout sessions, as well as the keynote speakers, and really enjoyed the things that were brought forward. I attended a class called Is Your City Crisis Ready? And totally was not what I was expecting. They talked about, are we following social media to know what our citizens are saying about our community? And I don't follow social media at all. I hardly even know how to log on to it. And but they said that, and I don't know how it applies to our city, but social medias or platforms are a good way to understand and communicate with your citizens to know what they're feeling, what they're experiencing about our city. And so I thought that was pretty interesting. One of the other ones that I really enjoyed was the breakout session with the I can't remember his name, one of the representatives of Utah League of Cities and Towns, and the mayor and Dave were there. I can't remember his name, but we talked about the relationship of towns to our legislature. The legislature has been pushing housing, housing, housing. But the problem that comes along with that, which are more than one, but one of the main ones is traffic. How do we handle the traffic? And basically the legislature says that's a local problem. And, build more houses, but your traffic is your problem. Figure it out. That's kind of the take I got on that. But yet I think our message back to the league to take the legislature that we got to have tools to be able to manage it, be able to do something with it. We're not, some cities take traffic from another city and funnel it through their cities. And how do you manage all that? That's a real problem. So the housing's coming along fine. It's the traffic now that we got to deal with and how to handle traffic. I really enjoyed one of the breakouts with Arthur Brooks, and he said, he talked about happiness. What makes you happiness? What makes you happy? He said the trend he thinks across the United States is a downward trend in happiness. And what makes and brings you happiness? And he talked about the pillars of happiness. And then he talked about taking a look at your city. What's right with Providence? What makes you happy with Providence? What makes you happy with your family? What is right with your family? What is right with your relationships? What is right with yourself? And build on those to build happiness in your life, rather than, as a lot of the things that get brought to us are, this is wrong, that's wrong, we need to correct this, we need to do that. And I really enjoyed his opening remarks. Anyway, so that's about all I have to report.
Okay, thank you. Jeff?
I also went down to the convention, and I won't repeat because you've already covered it. One of my favorites was how to have effective meetings, though, from a city manager in Saratoga Springs. So I'm just going to gather my notes and just kind of discuss that with Ryan and the mayor, and some really good ideas. So you can implement them or not, but I really enjoyed that. And the only other thing, I've just had citizens again talking to me about the speeding issues in our town, and we don't do speed bumps. So someone mentioned, how about speed dips?
If we don't do bumps, we
If
can
we don't do
dips.
bumps, can we do dips? So I don't know. I'll talk to Ryan about that one too.
We'll slow down on fixing a few potholes.
Yeah, and usually usually the response is, well, just go the speed limit, and everyone else behind you has to go the speed limit. One time I had road rage, and I actually just called 911, and they were so quick to respond, and they pulled the guy over, and he hadn't registered his car for like a whole year. So they said, good job. But anyway, I
That's
used
nice to know they
911.
responded that quickly.
Yeah, it was really quick. It was on my way to work. I probably shouldn't say that now. They know who I am, but anyway. No, yeah, I don't know how to solve this speeding problem, but
Well, if it makes you feel any better, we're not the only ones that have that problem. Everyone,
Use the speed limit, and then they will only go the 10 miles over a lower limit.
yeah, you just go faster. Anyway, that's
you
all.
go for that, Chad.
I don't have anything else. I'm done.
Great, thank you. I'm happy to always know more efficient way to run meetings because I sit in a lot of meetings all over town. I chair meetings, I sit in meetings, I participate in meetings, and it's nice to be in a meeting that is run efficiently.
And I wasn't saying we don't have efficient meetings.
Oh, no, I
was
didn't
just
take
fun
it
to
that
be in
way.
it with a group of city managers and mayors, and they were all just, it was a really good breakout session. I really enjoyed
Sometimes
it.
it helps to know that other people have the same problem too.
Yeah.
And getting, two minds are better than one because you can pool your ideas and come up with a new one. So I appreciate that. I look forward to that information. Meetings. We have a great community. I had an opportunity to be on a Zoom meeting actually yesterday with UDOT. UDOT has allocated $4 million to build a trail along the Blacksmith Fork River in the south part of town here. And they were talking about how we were going to do it and how we can make sure that everybody has all the information. And I said, Cache Valley is probably better than most places that I know because we do collaborate. We do talk to one another. We do have an opportunity to meet with the other people and make sure that what we're doing meshes with what they're doing, that meshes with what somebody else is doing. And so I see that as I go to all the various meetings. So we're looking at funding through COG. We're looking at some CMPO money, Cache Metropolitan District, getting money to improve our infrastructure and our roads. And that's one thing that everybody is struggling with. We have more traffic on the roads than we've ever had and probably less dollars to do that. And as we look at some of the federal things that are going on, we are tightening our belt, making sure that we're ready if they're going to cut our funding. We have $2 million in projects going on, and we hope that they don't pull it in the middle because they've already told us we could have it. So the league meetings were good. I feel like because we're at the table with the league, they know who we are. They know that we're not afraid to say what we think and ask them for their help. They are an organization that lobbies for us in the legislature, so we want to make sure that they're lobbying for the right things, and they don't keep changing the rules on us. I'm sure, our 911 folks and the sheriff, they come up with all kinds of things that they think that they'd like us to do because their brother's sister's aunt had a problem. And so my question is always, what's the problem? Have we defined it? Have we, show me some statistics to say that we really need a law to do this. So anyway, I'm there to be a little bit of a thorn in their side to ask those questions, but when it costs us a lot of money, it costs our taxpayers. and we want to make sure that we're spending the money wisely. So we have great things going on in our city. I don't know if you've had a chance to see our skate park, but it's keeping a lot of our kids busy. And we also have installed cameras all over the city so that we have CCTV and we can go to those and we can look to see what's going on. And it has really been nice to have those cameras so that we can help our citizens when they have an issue. We got a new playground. I could list all the things that we have, but we really have a lot of wonderful things going on in the city of Providence, way more than we have negative things. So I'm happy to report that we're a happy city. A couple of people might not be, but we try to look at the positive in our city. Okay, I'll go ahead and close that portion of the meeting, and I need an approval on the minutes from the March 19th, 2025.
I'll make a motion that we approve the minutes from March 19th.
Okay, I have a motion.
I'll second it.
Okay, we have a second. Further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Motion carries. We, unlike some other councils, we do allow individuals to make comments if there is a comment that they have that's not related to another item on the agenda. I always like to remind everyone that we do take positive comments too. So is there anyone who is interested in commenting? Okay, I will close that portion of the meeting and go to our presentations. We have Alina Oling here from CAPSA to give us a presentation. And she and I talked briefly before the meeting that perhaps our participating on our social media might be a more effective way, seeing as we don't have a room full of people to take the information. But we are very supportive of CAPSA in our city and know that we have citizens who take advantage of your services. So
Yeah.
state your full name for the minutes.
Alina Oling. I appreciate your feedback on that because that's one of the things that's challenging, if you will. I think sometimes we remember CAPSA when we need help, but our hope is that we can help people remember really what we do more often. We know that there's a lot of people in our communities who are being impacted by domestic and sexual violence, and the more that our communities are talking about it, the more people are going to be willing to reach out for help. And that's honestly, it ties in well. One of the things that we are working towards is launching a more consistent newsletter. And I wrote a note that it may be beneficial to take those blurbs, and even if they're not distributed, even if they're just distributed to councils, to kind of keep top of mind things that we're working on. Because we do have a section that talks kind of about mostly our prevention initiatives. What are, some things that you can share with people in your community, conversations we talked about, and that's really what I'm talking about today. The reason we come in April, if you're unfamiliar, is because April is Sexual Assault Awareness Month. Really the two pillars of what CAPSA does are support survivors of sexual violence and domestic violence across all of Cache Valley and up into Franklin County, as well as the Bear Lake area. And so I was thinking about, what might be helpful to share during Sexual Assault Awareness Month. Often in the fall, we share kind of our numbers, how things are trending. But I wanted to give a little bit of, so we have a curriculum that we've developed, but I wanted to share a little bit about what that curriculum's about. So when we think about survivors of sexual violence, we know that when we are providing support, there's a lot that goes into that support, right? Whether it's advocacy, helping support healing, giving space for healing. But part of what we have to accomplish is breaking down immense barriers that survivors face. And these barriers can be anything from physical barriers to emotional barriers, to any number of other things. But it's often these barriers that keep survivors from reaching out for help. So barriers like shame, fear, lack of resources, stigmas. These are the things that often are keeping survivors from feeling like they can reach out for help. At CAPSA, we want to ensure that survivors have access to confidential support, legal advocacy, trauma-informed care, but this is something that we can't do alone. Last year, we took almost 8,500 crisis calls, and while we're able to help once those people reach us, we know that in a community this large, there's very likely more people who are struggling with these things that haven't sought support for any number of reasons. So through education, outreach, and partnerships with healthcare providers, law enforcement, local business, government leaders, we can strengthen these networks that prevent violence and support survivors in their paths to healing. Each of us has a really unique role. The role of CAPSA is different from the role of law enforcement, is different from the role of community members, community leaders. But if we don't all work together, often we just held an event where we highlighted this, but if we don't all work together, it's often that people fall through the cracks. One of the things that we feel pretty passionate about at CAPSA is if someone calls and maybe what they're struggling with isn't domestic or sexual violence, we don't want to turn them away without a warm handoff to another agency. And we are grateful that there's a lot of agencies in this valley, like you mentioned, that are collaborative. But like I said, one of the biggest barriers that survivors are facing that we are recognizing is shame, which by definition is a painful, isolating feeling that tells someone they're flawed or unworthy. And it doesn't just impact survivors of sexual violence. It impacts people who are struggling with mental health, digital harm, self-doubt, all of these kind of topics that we hear circulating a lot because they're impacting our community members. Shame underlines a lot of them. And a lot of times it's shame that keeps people silent. It's shame that keeps people from reaching out to get help. So we at CAPSA, we have a prevention department that really is focused on youth as well as adults that are serving youth. And so this department, along with a coalition across the valley, developed a curriculum called Shame-Free Conversations. And this is really designed to help adults supporting youth, especially parents, have conversations with youth about topics that are largely connected to shame. This curriculum is one that really works to foster openness, trust, healing, vulnerability. These conversations are what prevent violence and harm, but also they help reduce these feelings of helplessness. I think not only for youth, but as adults working with youth, these are conversations and topics that can be really uncomfortable and challenging to talk through. And so providing a framework we are finding is helpful so that we can start to address these topics. A shame-free conversation, I'll give you a little synopsis of what it is and what this curriculum is, but a shame-free conversation is rooted in empathy, understanding, and acceptance. It's about choosing words that make people feel safe and heard rather than ashamed or dismissed. And so to help guide these conversations, we use an acronym of SAFE. So we encourage you to be specific, be clear and direct in your communication, acknowledge the topic that you want to talk about, be approachable. So creating safe and welcoming spaces. And this is more than your physical space, right? It's the emotional space that you're creating. Acknowledging feelings, validating someone's emotions and experiences. And one of the things that we understand through trauma-informed care is trauma is really defined by kind of 3 E's, right? There's an event that someone experienced that has an effect. And we may all experience a similar event. Maybe in a community, there's a natural disaster or something that is impacting the community. Well, everyone's experience with that event is going to be unique, and the way it affects them is going to be unique. And so when we are acknowledging feelings, what we're saying is, I understand that the way that you have experienced this and how it is affecting you may be different than myself. And then empowering, focusing on strengths and solutions. This all starts with belief. That's an initiative that is going on throughout the state. It's been around for a while, but this Start by Believing campaign, all of this is really underlined by that. Because when someone shares their experience, one of the most powerful things we can do is just start with belief. As a community, it really does take all of us to break these cycles of shame and to engage in these conversations. And so really what I'm asking you to do is, if you will think of within your networks, whether that's you are in your kids' school PTA, or you have kids, or you have grandkids, or you have neighbors, or you're part of a religious group, or book club, if you will be thinking of groups where you feel like they could benefit from this training can be tailored. So it can be 45 minutes to about an hour and a half. And the training really walks through how do you have these conversations with youth? What's the impact? And then really doing it and practicing. So if you'll be thinking of groups where you feel like this training would be beneficial and then reaching out to CAP so we can come and provide this training. That's really our goal, is to just educate more people on how to have these conversations, because we can't do it with everyone. So that is our ask. But if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have in general.
Is that program on your website? I didn't see it.
Is it on our website?
Mm-hmm. Oh, okay.
It's getting added. We've had, long story short, we're working to redo our website, and so that's something that will be going on.
Okay.
But if you do have questions, you can reach out to just our direct phone number. We can
Thank you.
answer.
Do you know the statistics of how many people in Providence you serve?
I could get it for you. I don't have it with me, but I can get it and email it to you. Yeah. Are you curious for any specific breakdown?
No, I'm just
Just-
wondering how many people in our city
Yeah.
avail themselves of your services.
Yeah. We can get it for you. The only barrier to data, and I try to explain this, is
I don't need specific names or anything. I
Well,
just
no,
want
no.
a number.
a number. I know that. The thing that can be challenging is the only way we know where they're from is if they report their zip
Mhm.
code, and often people don't.
Yeah.
But I can get you what we have. So
Awesome.
anything else? Any questions? Okay. Thank you for your support. And I'll
Thank
be
you.
in touch about some ongoing information or
Oh,
social
yeah.
media things.
Yeah,
we
that
can
would be
send.
great.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay, thanks, Alina. Item number 3, Cache County Sheriff. Chad?
Hey, well, thank you.
Sheriff Jensen, I'm sorry.
Chad works too. I'll explain my pink shirt first. So I only wear this twice a year, usually once a year at the rodeo for Tough Enough to Wear Pink. But it was Secretary's Day today, and they asked me to wear my pink shirt in honor of them. So I've worn my pink shirt all day long today, and I've been mocked.
It looks good. It's
I've
a
been
good color
mocked
for you.
everywhere I've been. So oh, it's okay. They're worth the mocking. I can take it. First, before we get started too much, I just want to reiterate what the mayor said, and we appreciate the partnership we have, not only with Providence, but with all the communities that we serve with our contracts in law enforcement. You guys meet regularly as mayors. I get to meet once a year with you typically, and just to sit back and watch and see how that works and how the mayors talk and work with neighboring cities that touch each other. It's really rather amazing how well that all comes together as time goes on. We have the same thing with law enforcement. We have partnerships with Logan City Police that you couldn't put a price on what we have with them and how we work with them. We have joint task force, joint SWAT teams. We are truly a force multiplier for each other, and it saves all of us money in the long run because we are so close and the networks in the valley are so strong, and it's fantastic what we have here. It's not that way all over the state. I can tell you 1,000 horror stories from other sheriffs on how things go in other counties in the states, and it's nothing compared to what on our worst days here, it's nothing compared to what's going on in other parts of the state. So it is great to be here and be able to work with like we do.
It's
But
good.
I'll getting into the brass tacks of stuff. So it's contract time again. I'll talk about the patrol stuff first. We're at the end of the 3-year process. If you remember, 3 years ago, we signed the contracts were for 3 years, working on hours to get all the cities closer to the hours of service that were actually provided. And my goal this next 3 years, now we got to start working on what the hourly rate is, since the county's been fantastic to the employees to keep us somewhat in the market so we can keep some staff here. And it's worked very well for the last 3 years with the increases, but that's increased what our patrol costs are. I've only ever passed along what our true cost is to the cities. We're not here to make $1 off any of the cities, but we do need to cover the cost. So that's what we're working towards next year. This year is for a 1-year contract. Things are a little bit weird at the county right now. We've got a new auditor, new finance, new everything. So rather than getting me and you guys wrapped up in 3-year contracts, I made a proposal to do a 1-year addendum to the current contract, which just increases the rate from $52.35 to $56. an hour. And then next year, look at those 3-year contracts and work with the cities to look what the next 3 years looks like with the hourly rate. But for this year, I'll talk about that. So currently right now, Providence, in the first 9 months, you're sitting about 2,940 hours of service in Providence. If you average that out through your year, which would be the end of June, you'll be at about 3,920 hours. Last year, we were at 3,946, and the total number of hours that you contract for is 2,535. I'm not real concerned about the hours so much. I mean, there's a 1,300 hour deficit there. But I like us to be at about 150% because I don't ever want to come to one of these meetings and say, we didn't give you the hours that you paid for. So I like having that little cushion. I'm not real concerned about the hours of service right now, but we do got to start working on the rate some. So if you can talk about, pardon me, I misspoke there. That was calls for service. Let's talk about calls for service first. I just gave you those hours. I'm on the wrong line. So calls for service in your first 9 months, you're at 1,454 calls for service. If we look at that through the end of the year, that'll be about 1,940 calls for service. Last year, we were at 1,738. I looked at what the increase was, because there's a little bit of a difference there. A lot of the calls for service are where it's a lost child or a parking problem, whatever. They were ones and twosies kind of across the board, a few increases. Where I did see the increases, the bigger ones, was animal strays was up 10 through 9 months, which you're going to see a few more of those. Citizen disputes, these aren't family disputes, these are just citizen disputes. It could be about anything. They were up 10 or 12. Fraud cases were up 10 or 12. Juvenile problems were up 15 to 20. But let me talk about the juvenile problems a little bit. Some of those cases were self-generated by my deputies here because they were on patrol. They found something going on with juveniles, and they created a report so they could follow up on the incident. So that's not a horrible increase because I know we're the one that found the problem and generated that report so we could follow through with that. Traffic violations were up quite a few. But again, a lot of those weren't so much as calls being reported to us by the citizens. They were calls that my deputies were here. They found a problem, hopefully fixed the problem, and they generated a report to document that so they could write their report to it. So those two I feel pretty good about because we're generating the numbers, and that tells me that we're working on problems in your community. And traffic accidents. Let's talk about those for just 1 second. So you guys with crashes, last year you had 79 total in Providence. This year, if it averages out, you'll be at about 100. You have 81 right now through the first 9 months. I looked at some of those. Some of those, there's an increase in private property crashes, namely Macy's parking lot crashes, which aren't attributed to a road or anything with that. What I didn't do the deep dive on yet is how many happened on Highway 165.
I'm missing a tree.
What's that?
I'm missing a tree.
You're missing a tree?
Mhm.
That might be one of the crashes I'm looking at here.
It is one of the crashes.
Now, there's a little bit of, with these crashes is, depending on where it is on Highway 165, it could be, I don't have the trooper numbers. That's a state highway. They take crashes, we take crashes. So the crashes that I'm reporting to you are crashes that my office took. That's not what Highway Patrol took. But I am curious to see which one of those of ours are on Highway 165. I went with the ride with Ryan a couple of weeks ago. We talked about some issues with UDOT and some of the struggles that you guys may or may not be having with them on 165 about some speed limit changes. So I wrote UDOT a letter. Not only had some issues with their issue with changing the speed limit in Providence along 165, but did my own research and is like, you idiots change the speed limit every 2 miles from Logan to Mountain Crest.
Yeah. Or to Hiram, too.
Yeah.
There's changes in there.
And it changes twice between Hiram and Paradise. I live in Paradise and I drive that every single day, and it's like, go fast, go slow, go fast, go slow, go fast. Every 2 miles, the speed limit changes. So the letter I wrote for Ryan on behalf of you, council,
We're so glad you're on our side.
is I did point out, you change the speed limit every 2 miles.
What
And
do
not
they
only is
expect?
that not safe in a lot of respects, is it makes enforcement really, really hard. I mean, radar guns go a long way. And you're sitting in the 55 and shooting the 45. Was that person in the 45 speed limit or were they in the 55 mile speed limit? It makes enforcement really hard when you have that many changes in such a short amount of time. I don't personally, and me looking at it, I don't worry so much about the speeds leaving Logan heading to Paradise because you're coming out of off of Main Street Logan, which you're not getting 40 miles an hour if you had to. Police cars don't go 40 miles an hour with their lights and siren on. So public isn't doing that. My bigger worry with all the speed limit changes are people coming northbound when you leave the 45 in Nibley with relatively lighter traffic than you have in Logan, and you hit the 55 for 2 miles coming out of Nibley in the county portion of 165, and you hit the high traffic area of people coming into all your business district along 165
And come into a light.
and coming
too.
to a light.
Yeah.
So those are some of my worries, and because of my efforts, I have a meeting with UDOT on May 15th. Don't know if this is going to do any good, but
We've had our meeting with UDOT as well.
And the Highway Patrol wrote us a letter as well.
yeah.
I talked with Jason
Yeah.
Kendrick, and he sent in a letter to say, of course we'll,
Yeah,
we'll patrol it more. We'll ticket the people, but
yeah, but I can tell you, my guys have been down there, and it is hard to be there. It's easy to be there. The problem is I don't know as you're getting the speeds that they're all worried about these speeds. Like, oh, we can't slow the traffic down. Well, depending on the time of day you're down there,
let's kill a few people, and then they'll do it.
but you get down, you go through there at between probably 7 and 9 o'clock in the morning. You'll be lucky to go 30. And you get there between 4 o'clock and about 8:30, 9 o'clock at night, you'll be lucky to go 30, at least from South Prov Lane through Providence. I'm like, so what is your angst with lowering the speed limit?
Yeah.
I mean,
That was our question. But
for
they
most of
didn't
the
like
days,
it.
you're not even going to get to the posted speed limit that Providence wants it reduced to. And
In the Safe Streets for All report, I mean, I have that in my report, but so you've skipped mine, which is good. You got me. But the Safe Streets for All report came out and told us that the highest safety problem in Providence is the speed on 165 where it's 55 miles an hour. Number one safety problem that was identified in the study. So we contacted UDOT and asked them what the process would be. They moved the speed limit almost overnight with no notice from the north of Macy's Corner to the south of Macy's Corner. And so they moved that.
Gave us 1,000 feet.
And but then but didn't notice it or anything. And the ask is to move it to the city limit so that it's before Third South coming in, so that it has a consistent one that creates other benefits for us. If it's moved to a 45, then we have better ability to get access to 165. As it is, they're treating it like an unincorporated road and regulating it as such. So our reduction from a 55 to a 45 on that is fully safety driven first and foremost. Secondly, it is about access and entering on and off that highway.
We actually
And
wanted
so-
it from the high school.
What's that?
We actually wanted the change from the high school.
Sure, that would be
Gives
the
them
ideal.
a chance to slow down
yeah,
by the time they get to that light, because I've seen some pretty horrific. I mean, that's where I'm missing the tree, is down there.
you're looking at less than 2 miles, literally 2 miles from the speed limit change on the north end of Nibley city limits to the city limits of Providence. It's less than 2 miles. So does the 55 mile an hour speed limit really make any sense to go for less than 2 miles to turn it back to 45? Then you get through the dip, you go 45 through Nibley, then it's 55 through the dip until you come top of the dip, which is less than 2 miles. Then you go back to 45 miles an hour again. It changes literally like every 2 miles from Mountain Crest-ish where it turns 55 going to Hiram until you get to the south end of Logan where they turn into a 40 when you get down by Macy's. I want them to make it 45 from Logan to Mountain Crest. because that's what
That
would
makes
make
the
sense.
most sense, actually.
That's safe. It's safer. You know, if they're going 45 in the off hours, it's going to be, if the speed limit's 45, they're going 55. But when we're running traffic, especially trying to pick cars out of heavy traffic place and trying us to sit in a safe place that might be in the 55, but we're trying to shoot people in the 45, it doesn't make any sense traffic enforcement wise. It doesn't make any sense safety wise. It doesn't make any sense at all that we're changing speed limits on the state highway every 2 miles just so somebody can punch it, stop. It makes no sense to me at all. I'm going to lose this battle. I can promise you that right now with UDOT on the 15th. But if I can't get anything else accomplished, to follow Ryan's and the city's goal is to at least make it the 45 through Providence and get it out past the light. At least,
You know that if the speed limit is 55, they're going at least 60,
Oh, yeah.
maybe 65.
yeah, writing tickets between something. I mean, if there's not a lot of traffic on the road between your city limits and Nibley city limits, depending on the time of day, you can write a few tickets in the 55. But we're not being very
Consistent,
proactive,
yeah.
consistent working this way because it depends on where you got to get so far on the 55 to make sure when you write somebody a ticket, they're actually in the right speed zone. And it makes enforcement difficult.
It's interesting because people will glance up and see a 55. They miss the reduction back to 45 within a mile or two. And so they're in their mind, they're thinking 55 is good.
Yeah.
And it's a problem.
Well, it's really not fair to the public. I mean, I think public wants to say we want these faster speed limits, and I understand that. If I could have my way, I would say north of Richmond, you guys have it at a 60. Why isn't that 65 or faster? You go on a straight shot with no stops in between, with nobody jumping on to 8991 from Richmond until you get to Idaho. But
Although there are a fair amount of accidents on that road.
deer, we don't get a lot of, there's not a lot of like PI accidents,
Yeah.
but you put 65 through the canyon.
Yeah.
The year they did that, we had 18 fatals up Sardine Canyon.
Oh.
Does that make any sense?
Yeah, I've got a question, and I know this is a UDOT question, but since you're going to have a conversation with them, and you probably already know the answer, the thing that I'm hearing complaints about on 165 is that turn signal on the new.
It's because
Right.
of the 55 mile an hour limit. If it goes to 45, it would be solved.
People are complaining like
Yeah.
crazy.
That is one of those things in classification. If we can get the classification reduced, now we have a study that is starting in order to change the classification, but the reason why they don't is because the 55 mile an hour speed limit.
So that would solve both problems.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Well, I'll keep you guys informed on what that meeting goes. But I do.
Okay.
I've talked to Ryan, and I know what Providence wishes are, at least with what happens in your jurisdiction. But I would like to see it, since we're going to have the argument, is to punch it all the way, the same speed limit all the way to Mountain Crest. The speed limit changes to 55 just past Mountain Crest. I mean, so that's a good place to change it. Then you can actually have a speed limit that actually goes 5 miles rather than
Which
before
is-
you change it to 35.
Which is Hiram's city limits.
Yeah.
It changes at their city limits.
At their city limits.
Yeah, so between Logan and Hiram, the only place that it's 55 is either in unincorporated or Providence and Millville. And most of Millville is 45. So it's really Providence.
So we're the people I'm talking to, and this is about par for the course. They're from Salt Lake. It's the area manager who doesn't even live here, who has no idea what that street even.
We'll be cheering you on.
Well, maybe I can bring
Or
back
if
some
you
good
need
news.
any of us to come.
I've had these arguments with UDOT before, and I can 100% promise you I've never won one of those arguments yet.
That's not very encouraging, Chad.
I have,
This one,
The
of
mayor
all the
with
ones
you
that-
and Ryan.
of all the ones I've had, this one, of all the arguments over different things with UDOT, this is the one that probably makes the most sense of any argument I've ever had with UDOT. Does it make any sense that the speed limit changes every 2 miles?
The 45 will be safer for the developments that happen in
Yeah.
the future that they're pushing right.
Well, and we don't even have Blackstone.
Well,
On.
all that's, and there's a lot of open space on that road right now. You're going to get more development's going to come,
Right.
which is going to dump more cars into that. And you know, you guys got a great thing going in over here. Chick-fil-A, you know the traffic that Chick-fil-A is gonna bring to that already goofed up intersections
Yeah.
and the speed limits and
Didn't even think about it.
yeah, there's just a lot of development that's going to happen, not only in Providence city limits, but as you get to some parts of Millville. I understand what some of the east and west sides are, but there's just going to be more development that's going to be on these frontage roads, and 55 is too fast for that.
Yes. Thank you
I
for your support. That
will-
it means a lot.
I will
Appreciate
keep you
that.
involved on what those discussions are.
Thank you.
As far as the traffic last year, so let's talk about speed, because I think we're making some headway on some of those too. So for the first 9 months of this year, we've written 295 tickets in Providence. If you put that up at the end of the year, that'll be pushing about 400 citations just in your city limits. Last year we wrote 239. And let me
So
tell
for
you,
everybody that gets a complaint about speeding, that means we've almost doubled the number of tickets from last year.
but-
So all the time you get calls about speeding, we are certainly working as a joint effort to try to help communicate where those are and work together. Doubled the number of tickets that way. So whenever you get those calls, know that there's a lot of work going
Yeah.
to help fix that and respond to what the public is talking about.
Yeah, we've changed the way we're doing patrol. Little bit old school up until the last couple of years. It's like a guy gets in a car, he goes to work, he waits for calls to come in. You drive around, you go sit on the street, you write a ticket. Oh, that's great. Visibility is 100%. We want the visibility in the communities and the deputies in the communities. But we've looked at this differently, and like something's got to change with how we're doing patrol. We're just being pretty reactive to a lot of stuff. So we're getting more reactive to stuff. We've got a team of guys right now who are going out and they're just doing proactive patrol work. They're not taking calls for service. They're just going out like, where's your problem areas in Providence? Where's your problem areas in Hiram? What's the problem being reported? And they're actively going out and being proactive all over the valley. And we've seen the numbers change. Citation numbers, I'm not in this to get some award for we write a lot of tickets. But tickets save lives. Tickets remind people what the world's all about. Tickets reminds people what's important. But in Providence, if you take this current year average, just in speeding tickets, we'll write 85. Last year we wrote 44.
Oh, wow.
Expired registration will be at about 35. Last year we wrote, these are just the higher numbers. There's a lot of increases just in the ones and twosies on different offenses. I'm just giving you the 4 or 5 the bigger increases. Right away and stop sign violations, about 20 probably this year, 8 last year. Handheld devices, cell phone talking, be at about 20 this year, 8 last year. That's not adding any more deputies to patrol. That's not doing anything different with hours. That's just us being smarter about where we're directing our resources to have the biggest impact on public safety in the communities we serve. Our DUI numbers are way up for the year. Our arrest numbers are up. Our drug arrest numbers are way up because we're trying to be proactive with public safety and not just reactive and just a warm body in the car. So I see some great things coming with this. That takes a lot of manpower because you're pulling them calls for service or sometimes having to wait a little bit because we don't want to pull those guys off of those kind of calls. So if a VIN inspection or a non-emergency call has to sit for a few minutes, I would rather those calls sit and let the proactive guys do their work and let the next available car take some of those non-emergency accidents. So, but we're really trying to get all of our deputies in patrol to be more proactive in what they do and where they're at and how they're doing things. So
So
we've seen
these
increases.
numbers probably don't reflect the ones that are not ticketed either.
No,
The people who are stopped and warned.
Yeah.
As opposed to, and these are just tickets.
These are just tickets. Yeah, nothing that I didn't give any warning numbers. I wouldn't have verbal warnings, and we don't write a lot of written warnings, but it's either verbal or you get one. But yeah, this has nothing to do with the warnings that we're giving as well. So
These are good numbers for us to talk with our citizens about, to show them the difference between last year and this year. Because we get accused all the time that we're not doing all that we can to keep people from speeding. So,
yeah, and I mean, I don't want not every person who speeds ought to get a ticket. I'm never going to go tell any of my staff that you have to write tickets. I'm not going to take their discretion away from them on when they want to write one and when they're not going to write one. That's a great thing that the legislature's given all of us is discretion. And I'm never going to tell them otherwise. But I can see just in the work that they're all doing, and not just in Providence, but valley-wide, they've taken a different approach on how they're enforcing traffic. And I think that's a great thing for all of us.
We appreciate that.
Okay.
Just to add to his, we have a reserve officer that we've hired from theirs that does our code enforcement, and the number of tickets we have for parking tickets has been massively increased in doing that. So we've been able to take that off, have them focus more on some of these other things as well. And I think that's been able to be helpful. So the joint partnership that we have has been a good thing.
No,
So
it's great. I think we have it too good almost sometimes. I feel guilty about how well we have it sometimes. So let's talk about animal stuff for a minute, then we'll get back to the contract stuff. So just give you some numbers. So we're in the second year of the 3-year contract with Animal Control. And you guys pay for about 680 hours of animal control. Now these are just, I don't know, ticket numbers, or I should have ran the call volume number stuff and I didn't get too far into that. Actually I did. I thought I didn't. So currently you guys will hit about 280 calls for service with the animal control side of stuff. And last year we had about 221. Most of these are calls for service, people calling in complaints. Some of those are just office generated stuff where my guys were here and they saw something and reacted to it. With that, in last year, January 24 through January 25, we've impounded 14 dogs, 5 cats that were strays, not TNR. And you guys were the first city in the valley to want to do a TNR program to some respect. And we were called for traps, and we trapped 8 cats. So we TNR'd them and released them back to where they were picked up at. So I don't know if you're still getting complaints as a city with cat problems, but the program's available.
gotten any since we started the program. So
I
I'm
haven't
glad
heard
you
of
have.
The program's there and available if your citizens want to use it.
Explain TNR to.
Oh,
Trap,
traps
neuter.
and release. Sorry, I should have explained.
That's okay.
TNR.
That I wasn't sure that the audience would know what that was.
Yeah,
The Logan City ones too.
Jeff will get it. Yeah, I mean, so I think that, I mean, it's a service that you provided to your citizens, and they did take you up on it. And that's what we've done with your TNR program.
Are we the only city now? Is that what you said, or we were the first?
You're the only city
We're the
who's
only city.
called and wanted to offer that to your citizens, and it's still available if your citizens want to do that and want to use the traps. We're happy to go do it. With the understanding is, and this is where some people don't like the answer, is by state law, if we catch a cat, fix a cat, we have to put the cat in the same colony that it left, and that's within like a block of where it was picked up. So I think some people have some idea that they're gonna trap these cats and we're gonna fix them and we're just gonna cut them loose somewhere. They're coming back to the neighborhood, and that there's no way around that if they're called in that way. The 5 cats that were brought in otherwise, they were either adopted out or we've TNR'd them ourselves because they were just abandoned, and we found a home where they could be released now that they're fixed and can provide a service.
And how are they collared? How do you know that if they're stray cats or if they belong to somebody and they abandon?
You'll know if they've been caught and fixed if their ears are split. We don't
Okay.
collar them, but if you see one and you see that its ears been split, that cat's already been caught.
Okay.
And if we catch that cat again, or somebody called in a cat problem and that cat gets caught again, we're just going to let that one go because there's nothing we can do with the cat that's already been fixed. But if the city's not hearing complaints,
I haven't heard any.
it's good for us because. But as long
Apparently those were the 8 that were the problem, and
well, if you guys want the program, it's available to you and it's available to your citizens, and we'll keep doing what we do. Okay, so the last thing, I'll get back to the numbers that I messed up with on the first time. So we're end of year contract year, the 3-year contract piece. We've got the hours. We talked about the increase, what the hourly rate was going to be. Doing a 1-year addendum. I talked with Ryan. I think what he advised me that what you guys wanted to see was to keep your rate the same, the 132,720, because of some budget issues, I guess. And I just reduced the hours by a couple hundred, to make the math work. And then next year, when we look at another 3-year contract cycle, that we would readdress that next year when we look at contracts long term.
Great.
Any questions I can say with that mouthful?
I don't mean this to be a politically charged question. Just out of curiosity, we had a citizen come in quite a while back. Do you deal with illegal, how do you say it?
Immigration.
Immigrants in our area, in Cache Valley, in Providence,
That's a good question. Could this
just
come
because
up?
it's, I don't know, a topic.
No, I appreciate it because it's a hot topic button right now. It's all over the news. My office, I can speak for the whole county, is local law enforcement doesn't have the authority to arrest anybody for strictly being illegal. If we arrest somebody for a state crime, they're going to get arrested for the state crime. They're going to be booked into the jail. And what our legal responsibility is, once they're booked into the jail, if we can't identify what their legal status is, we will contact ICE at that point once they're arrested for another crime other than just, nobody's ever going to get booked for being illegal into the jail. We do not have the authority to do that. And then once we contact ICE, it's whether ICE wants to come pick them up or not, and we don't really have any control over that. Do we have illegal in our county? Absolutely. Is it a huge problem in our valley? As far as the criminal side goes, no. ICE hasn't come up and made any big sweeps, nor are they called and want to come make some big sweeps. They have been in the valley because they had some pretty targeted people that they were looking for, that have come from another jurisdiction up to Cache, and they knew where they were at. And they came up and they got those folks and arrested them. But that's how we're dealing with
And
that
ICE is a
status
state
now.
department.
What's that?
That's a national department.
Yeah,
that
that's
works-
the
is-
that's immigration. That's Department of Homeland Security.
So somebody, if they call you and say, I think somebody is illegal, it's like.
We're not going to do anything.
We don't
with
do
that.
anything.
Yeah, we don't have the authority. There's a program we could sign up for, but I can speak for my office. I can't speak for Jess, but we're not gonna. We won't sign up for that. I don't want my guys out just doing that. We got our own things to worry about,
Plenty
and
of
that's
other stuff.
not one of them.
Just curious, yeah.
But no, it's coming up. I think there's a lot of folks in the valley that are really nervous right now about what's going to happen to them and what the status is. And I'm meeting with several of those groups in the next couple of weeks and try to set their mind at ease. Now, I'm not going to answer all their questions for them, and they're not going to like the answers that may be forthcoming to them. But the only way you're going to get reported to ICE in this valley is if you get booked into jail on a separate crime.
I guess there are people that are worrying about registering their cars or doing those kinds of things because they don't want to get on the radar. So
Yeah, well, I think that's
end up being an
problematic for
issue.
them. That's problematic. It creates grief for them if they get stopped for that. If they get stopped for that and have a warrant, or
yeah,
there's a lot of other issues that could get them to the jail that otherwise probably wouldn't. You can go register your car, and they're not going to check your immigration status at motor vehicles.
Yeah.
I mean, that they don't do that. But I know there's a lot of worry, and I'll help them. I'll educate them the best I can, but it's not, I understand their angst too.
Yep.
Anything
No
else I can
questions?
answer?
No other questions?
Thank you.
Thank you, Sheriff
Okay,
Jensen.
Thank you.
Okay. We'll go to item number 4, law enforcement, or we have, next item is resolution and ordinances. We don't have any of those. We've got agreements, contracts. So now we'll move to item number 4. That's our law enforcement addendum. So Ryan, I'll let you handle that.
Yeah, as he talked, we've asked with some of the budget ones and some of the softening of the sales tax, we've asked that we could match the same budget number as last year. And so we've worked that with him. So we would support, the recommendation is to approve this 1-year extension of the contract at its current amount, which is the 2025 year number for the 2025-26 year.
Okay. So we'll take a motion.
I'll make a motion. Unless you go ahead, Stanley, go ahead. You were about to do it. Go ahead.
I don't care if you're.
No, go ahead.
I'll make a motion that we approve the budget amount for law enforcement services addendum for the 2020, addendum to the contract that we've had with Cache County for
1 year.
1 year in the amount of $132,720.
Okay, so we have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, we have a second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. So item number 5 is the 911 service contract, E911 service contract amendment. We'll review it, discuss it, and take action on the amendment regarding the city's E911 service contract. So, Jeff,
Here I am.
Christy, you're going to do it. So,
Do it.
okay. So state your full name for the.
Okay. I'm Christy Walker. I'm the 911 director, and we do police, fire, and medical for the entire Cache County. We do non-emergency phone calls as well as animal control for the entire county as well. I brought with me our systems administrator, Brian Lowe. I call him the Wizard of Oz. He does all of our technology for all of the dispatch center, and he's amazing. And then obviously, Police Chief Jeff Simmons is here as well. And I'm thankful to have the sheriff here with us too. When he says we work and collaborate well, we do, and we're really lucky how we all work so well together with all of the law enforcement agencies in the Valley. It's amazing. So I'm grateful for that. And thank you for your time, for allowing us to come and speak with you guys. I do appreciate that. So I'll just give you a quick history about the current dispatch agreement that's in place right now. It started in 2002 with a $2 fee that's on the utility bills. So on your utility bill that you see right now, that started in 2002, and there was an additional $1 that was added in 2013 to a separate radio fund. There have been no adjustments to either one of those fees since then. So for 23 years, there hasn't been an adjustment to the $2 fee. And for 12 years, there hasn't been an adjustment to the radio fee. So on your utility bill, you see the $3 911 fee. Every household in the county pays that $3 fee, and that goes to the 911 center. That's the dispatch agreement that I'm here to talk about tonight. A little bit about our dispatch center. First of all, if you haven't been, this is an open invitation from me to please come and take a tour, have a seat with a dispatcher for a minute and see what we do and how we do it. Check out all of our technology. It's quite amazing. Most of the time, most people have no idea what we do. And I love having people come in and they just go, oh my gosh, I had no idea. It's pretty great. So you're welcome to get with me, and I'd love to schedule a time to have you come. I've had a couple city councils come in, and the entire city council come in and take a tour, and it was pretty amazing. So you're welcome to do that. We're funded for 20 full-time positions, and right now we have 14 full-time employees, and we have one that's in training. So we have 5 full-time positions that are not filled. One of the reasons that they're not filled is that we do not have competitive wages right now. We're looking to hire some dispatchers. It's really hard to find dispatchers and that are competent, that can do the job, and it takes a very specific quality candidate to do the job. So we're looking for people who are wanting a career so that we can bring them in, train them, and they stay. And who doesn't want that, right? But it's hard to do in the dispatch world. And I'll just talk a little bit about the pay variances around our surrounding areas. For example, Box Elder pays $27.50 as a starting wage for their dispatchers. Rich County pays $26, and Franklin County pays $25 an hour for starting wage. Our current starting wage is $22.85. This past November, it was actually $20.85, and we went down a position from 21 to 20 to fund an emergency $2 raise to the dispatchers to try to keep a couple of them from going over the mountain, because that was a $7 difference. And we were successful in doing that, but it's just not quite enough. We know we're not going to hit that $27.50 amount, but we want to come within striking distance if we can. Like I said, we're trying to attract those quality individuals that can do the job and want to stay as a career, and it's difficult to do. It takes a very specific person. It's a lot of training. We have a high attrition rate. A lot of them don't make it through training. We'll hire 3 and 1 of them will make it. It's difficult. It's a long time, and it takes a very specific personality to do it. And we're trying to attract that with an attractive current starting wage. As you guys know, and you were talking about it earlier, sir, about housing, and that it continues to grow, and our county continues to grow, and we have more and more and more and more calls, but our staffing is the same, and we haven't changed our staffing in a long time. So 13 years ago, we're taking 20,000 more calls for service than we did 13 years ago, but we still have the same amount of staffing. And that's just going to continue to grow as our county grows, because the more people that you get in, the busier that we get in the dispatch center. So, we're trying to move along with that growth as well. I'd like to get that 21st position back. We have some big goals for the dispatch center, and trying to provide the best service for our citizens as well as our responders. And then I'll talk a little bit about our funding. We're an enterprise fund, so we do pay for ourselves. We get our revenue through fees just like this one that are on everyone's utility bill. We also get income from you get a fee on your cell phone bill as well. So that fee comes into the dispatch center for our county. We're the recipient of that. We also get paid by agencies that don't belong to a city or a utility. So, for example, Utah Highway Patrol for this region that we dispatch for them, they're not tied to a city, they're not tied to a utility. So they pay us to dispatch for them. And Utah State University is another agency that pays us to dispatch for them, where they're not tied to a city or a utility. We also have options for grant funding. We obviously apply for all the grants that we can. Federal stuff's happening, and so we're trying to be mindful of that as well. We can't use that money for wages because it's not guaranteed funds. So our proposal is this. Starting July 1st of 2025, we're asking for a 10% increase on the $3 fee. So that would be a 30-cent increase for 1 year. And then for the 4 consecutive years following, we're asking for a 3% increase that would end in 2030 for a total of approximately 71 cents per month per household for the entire county, and everybody would pay the exact same amount. So our primary intention for these funds is to increase our wages and to increase our staffing to reach those goals that we have as a dispatch center. And with that, I'll open it up for any questions that you have for any of us. Any of the 3 of us. Any of the 4 of us. The sheriff's here. He can answer questions. He deals with us all the time too.
The technology is paid for through other grants, through the federal government, through the state.
The technology is part of our funding. The radio specific is paid for by that $1 fee that was added. So there was the $2 fee, then we added the $1. So all of the radios that you see throughout our valley, all the ones that the officers are carrying, the handhelds, are paid for with that money. We just switched over. We just did a huge statewide cut over to a new P25 digital system from an 800 megahertz system in this past November. That was all paid for using that money. So we never had to go out
Even
to
throughout the
citizens.
county, the
Everywhere.
county and not just city, but all
The
entities.
entire county. We dispatch for the entire county, and our services are for the entire county. So everything that we do is countywide. So that's for police, fire, and medical for everyone. So
That's
yeah.
good. That makes me feel safer.
It's amazing.
Really, to know that everybody can communicate with everybody, especially in an emergency kind of situation. That, there were there are issues in Salt Lake that they couldn't communicate between each other, and
We're aware.
I think,
I'll tell
oh,
you,
how
this guy
terrible.
right here just he just received a Chiefs Commendation Award for his work on our radio cutover, because we had the best cutover in the entire state because of Brian Lowe. And I'll never quit telling people that, because it was so, no matter what he says, he hates it, but it's the truth. And I mean, me talking to all of the other directors throughout the state, in all of our meetings, it was very apparent that we had, and it didn't go great. Let me just say, it didn't go like super smooth, but comparatively, and where we're at now, I wouldn't trade it for anything. We're doing great. So
Congratulations.
yes, he deserved it very much. So grateful for him. Anything else? Go ahead.
Well, Brian, I have a lot of respect for you too. In your world, you do an amazing job.
He's a great human.
Fantastic. I just had a couple of questions. That so you're going to get 30 cents starting July. At what time frame will you be able to increase your staff? In other words, you're going to start in July. What is your anticipated time frame to bring new people on board? Or are you going to increase the wages of those that are there already and then look to bring people on? Or are you doing that simultaneously?
Simultaneously. We actually just hired 3. They haven't started yet. We just have done that over the last 2 months. Our hiring process is so ridiculously long, but it has to be super thorough.
So you hire them, then you train them, and some of them make it and some of them do not.
Yeah. And our plan is, we're bringing them in at the $22.85. And our plan is when this is all set and done, that we'll elevate them all. So even the ones that we've just hired, we would elevate everybody to a higher starting wage, and then the same amount we would elevate the veteran dispatchers that we currently have as well.
And do you have a goal amount that you're trying to achieve in
For
wages?
staffing?
Wage wise. Is this going to, I guess what my question is this going to do it for you?
For right now, yes. I don't want to come back, but also, having said that, talking about the growth of the county, each one of those households will add on to what we're getting. So that additional 71 cents per household, as our community is growing, that income also grows with it. So that comes into us as well. So
So you've done your planning based on what you see coming,
right.
which is
Basically.
what we want you to
Yeah,
do anyway.
it's true, and it's difficult to know. I mean, and with inflation, it's really hard. We're all struggling to know what the future. I don't know. I don't know what the future holds, but we believe that this is the amount that we need to at least get within striking distance of Box Elder. Keep the ones that we have. Bring in the ones that we would like, and once we get to hopefully a 21-person staffing. That's our goal, and I believe that we can hover there and grow with the county as that income grows.
Would that max out your building, your spaces you have in if you got to 21, or you still have more capability?
We're perfectly fine where we're at with.
They have a nice facility. You should go down and
I've
see.
been there.
Should come and take
I've
a look at it.
inspected it.
You did?
Oh yes. Hi, Brian.
Well, he was an inspector for
That's fantastic.
the city. For
Yeah,
Logan.
we have, so currently we have, in our dispatch center right now, we have 8 working consoles. So we can have up to 8 dispatchers at a time. Our minimum staffing right now is 3, and our normal staffing is like a 4 to 5 dispatch. We also have an emergency EOC down at the Emergency Operations Center down at the Sheriff's Office that can hold 3 dispatchers as well.
Well, just, I don't mind as a council being able to say to the citizens when they receive this increase, if they ask me, is, yes, this is planning to cover us, not only to bring wages up competitively, but also that this will fill the needs for and nobody can say how long,
Right.
but it's going to be a period of time. I mean, you've been, what now, 7 years, 8, no, longer than that. At
What are you talking about?
the rate you're at now.
Oh, Well, we haven't raised anything for
Right.
23 years.
So that's what I say.
So, I mean, we've been able to pay our bills for 23 years without having to raise anything, and we're hoping to continue doing that. We're pretty good at managing our money, and you know, to me, the 911 money is like precious. It's precious money because it comes from pain sometimes.
You know, and it's a fantastic service. Nobody wants to call 911 and get a busy signal
No,
or something
absolutely.
like that. That's not a good idea. But what I want to be able to say to the citizens, look, we're building for the future. Don't worry about in the next few years you're going to get hit again. What they're doing now covers for a few years. Don't worry about is they going to come back next year and want more.
Right.
I guess that would be like my answer to the citizens if you feel comfortable in me saying that.
I do. We're comfortable with this 5-year plan for sure. And like I said, you know, we haven't come to the city councils and asked for at least 13 years or that 12 years where we asked for the dollar increase. And I don't see, you know, barring any inflation stuff that we just don't see coming, any of us.
Sure.
That's our
you
plan.
can't see that.
That's our
yeah.
goal, and that was something that we've talked about in our meetings to get
Okay.
us here.
All right.
So,
Thank you.
yeah, thank you.
Well, I'm glad you're there.
Me too.
And we have to remember too, this is a 24-hour staffing
It is
as well. It's not just 9 to 5.
always there. We're always there. Someone's there Christmas morning and Thanksgiving every
Mm.
time.
And getting calls.
Yep.
Probably in the afternoon.
It's worse than the dairy.
You'd be surprised when they come in. It's crazy. So
It's worse than the dairy.
what?
It's worse than the dairy.
Something.
Worse than a dairy.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
It looks like
Any
we
other
don't have any
questions
other
for me?
questions. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. I appreciate you guys' time.
Thank you. Ryan, you have anything to add?
You know, the chief and I met, and we went through a lot of things, and I appreciate the transparency that was provided. I think, and I visited with the chief the opportunity, and I visited with Chad about the dispatch center, and toward the dispatch center. I think it's a great facility. Technology-wise, I'm a technology in favor of, and I support that he has a great thing. It'd be nice for us to have Providence Fiber right into the building, but you know, that's anyway.
Just a little
but,
plug for fiber.
You know, I think that at that point, a lot of their income as Christy, right? Christy, as Christy mentioned, a lot of the income that they've had is been from growth in population, and as that continues, that feeds that growth. A few things that are pluses for them, and didn't mention, but I think it is a plus. They have done good on their management of finances. They have a $3 million reserve, which is a credit of not trying to overspend, and they have had some reserve because of understaffing for the last couple of years. But a few years before that, they had some down years, but have worked hard. I believe I've made some of those items and due diligence over the numbers, and have scoured those numbers, and some of that was maybe a little uncomfortable when we went through that. But I appreciate that level of being able to get to that level of detail. I think I've commented there. I am a supporter that as we move forward, you know, it is nice to have the dispatch here local. There is other opportunities, and I believe Box Elder is a state run. Is that not correct? So when she talks about Box Elder, that is a little different, that they are state employees rather than city employees, and the state always gets better than we do. I don't think it better than Logan does, and so we understand that. We have previously known that this was coming, and so have taken proactive steps to understand that budget. So this isn't a surprise. The 10%, we were hoping a 3 to 5, but a 10% isn't necessarily a surprise to our budget. And so we've proactively looked down the road to see what that might be, and have predicted that. And so this is within prediction. Our crystal ball told us this was going to happen. So this is no surprise. It is an increase, and at that point we always have to be mindful of the increases. You to have 4-year guarantee is a little bit of a anxiety because we don't know what's going to happen. We look at the softening of the economy, and to guarantee 4 years at a 3% increase is a little challenging. But I believe that long term they do a good job, and to support that, hopefully at that end of that point, then hopefully that stops some of the increase, and they can have that natural increase again by population and growth. And I hope that they catch up to their full staffing. So from my end, with that said, I do support the increase, and I didn't ask. I was going to ask how many others have signed on and how many have yet to sign on. I know that we've met. So what if you want to come up and answer? I because the difficulty of this, I think I have a difficult job, but I have six votes that I got to convince. You've had 18 to go to visit with. That's a challenge and not something I admire. And I believe that you've worked that and had a lot of questions throughout. And I've gotten feedback from some of those questions because just in that loop, like the sheriff said, I have my own loop. But I'm kind of curious how some of that's gone in other areas and how you're ticking those off because you are making progress. I've heard. Yes.
We only have one city left to visit. Well, that's not true. We still have to go to the county council, but that's a whole nother story. We have one city left to visit, and that's Newton, and everybody else has, except for North Logan, we have to go back to them as well, but everybody else has signed and approved it. So
Great.
yeah.
Congratulations. That's
Thank
great.
you. It's been a lot of work, but I've sure learned a lot, and these guys are sick of my voice and they're tired of me listening to this spiel every single time. But I'm proud of us, and we've done it. I didn't think it was ever going to end, but here we are.
Well, this has given us a face to the service.
Yeah. I do not
which is
want to be
nice.
the face. I wish you guys would come in and see the real faces. I've been a dispatcher for 20 years, and I've been there, and I feel like I've done my time, and I love it, and I love to be able to go sit out on the console and work with them because they are amazing human beings, and I'm so very proud of them. I would love for you guys to come in and meet the actual dispatchers that are answering the phone. And
It was
on the
awesome. We
radios.
were.
We reach out to schedule that.
Me. So
You just call 911.
yeah,
Well, I was
Get her.
thinking that, but
I won't answer the
911.
phone though.
They have a dispatch number.
Yes. My email is christy.walker@loganutah.gov. And I believe you have my email. And the mayor actually has my email as
Yeah.
well. So I'm happy to schedule any time that you guys would like to come.
I'm very interested in it.
It's
You
an
would,
amazing
you
thing.
would love it. Sit you down by a dispatcher for a couple minutes and you won't believe it. So anyway, is that it?
Thank you.
So at that point, I think we'd recommend proceeding forward with this. So
Mayor, I have a question for Ryan. When you talked about the budget, isn't this just a pass-through? We collect it from the
we
citizens
do
and pass it
collect
through,
it and pass it through, but
Yeah,
we still have
so
to report the
I know
revenue
we
and
have to
expenses on.
put it in the budget,
Yeah.
change the numbers in the budget, but it's not affecting, in reality, the amount of money available to Providence it's just a pass-through from the citizens, correct?
That's true.
The fee
That's
to
true.
the citizens. Yeah.
That's true. But
Yeah.
we've already increased the rate in preparation for this, to knowing this was coming. So we've already taken care of the rate increase to take care of what this is, because we knew this was coming.
And it's only
We
33
better not
cents the
vote
first
no,
year,
huh?
You can, and then we'll just reduce the rate again. but-
30.
What's that?
Then
30.
the next few years, it's like 9, 10, 10, 10, 10. Yeah.
Per house, per month.
What did
Okay.
they do with the 3 million reserve? Did you bring something up about a 3 million reserve?
They
What
do
did-
have a 3 million reserve. There's a few things of what that is, I believe, and maybe you can commit to this. But my understanding is the 3 million is set aside so that if there's anything to happen to it, it could create a new dispatch center, and that it is built in, one for the potential if you have overrun in cost in a year, you could dip from that. But generally, it is set aside so that you could potentially build a new dispatch center if that were the case. Can I get that on a verbal that I get you're nodding your head, but the record is verbal record. So.
Yes. That's restricted funds just for the 911 center only. That's where all that money comes into, and we could have multiple uses for that. The state auditor has recommended that every agency have a year's worth of backup funding. We have that for a year's worth of if something bad happened and we didn't have any income coming in, we could still run that dispatch center for a year. Totally happy about that and comfortable with that. And if there ever is a time that the dispatch center needed to go on its own, which could happen, we have $3 million that we don't have to go ask for the citizens to the citizens for, which I'm also happy about that. So
If it's spinned off into its own, instead of being a in-price fund, if it was a special service district, those funds would be used to create that dispatch
it
center.
all
correct?
goes with the dispatch center. Absolutely. Yep. It's all those restricted funds that's for the dispatch center only. And having a dispatch center is not cheap. And when we have repairs or anything that needs to happen, we don't have to come to the city councils and ask for help in fixing those things. I'm sure that the citizens don't want to wait for any kind of repairs that have to happen. We can just take care of it, and we don't have to worry about it.
Like
And
we
you
said,
guys
we don't want to
have
get a busy signal
You don't want a busy signal. Nobody wants that.
or
No.
somebody to say, please hold.
We're capable of taking care of it ourselves. So
Thanks.
Christy, one more quick question, and this is probably crazy, but sat in League of City meetings and where they talked about governmental immunity. And how does that work for you guys?
I don't even know what that is.
Well, you're not
Chief?
liable. You're not liable for what you're doing.
We have
Or-
okay. That's okay. We have policies and procedures in place. Obviously, you would hope that we would, and they're very strict and they're very
Your protocol is,
yes. And what we do in all of the certain situations, which make it very level for everybody and fair for everybody. But those are the things that protect us. So
Good.
all of our policy and procedures have been reviewed, and that's what keeps us going like straight all the time. So yeah.
I would
Does
hope
that
you
answer
do.
your
For
question?
sure. I'd want you to
Okay.
have governmental immunity or immunity because you're human.
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely.
All of their policies, I'm sure that they have.
That's
that.
what we tell the dispatchers
Gross
too.
negligence. then
Follow the
negligence.
policies and you'll be protected.
Mhm.
That's what they're there for. And we have a great group. I'm telling you, we really do. We have a great group. So I never really worry about it. I sleep good at night. So but they're there. Anyway,
yeah, do what you say what you do.
right.
Thank you.
Okay. I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion that we approve the the addendum to the
It's
is-
the E911 service contract amendment.
all right, the 911 service contract, the amendment. I'll make a motion that we approve it.
Okay, I have a motion.
Second.
Okay, we have a second. Further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Wahoo! We didn't even ask you to come back. Although your smiling face would be nice. But thank you for helping the rest of our council put a face on our 911. And thank you for the good job that you're all doing. Thanks, Chief.
Yeah, I'll take it.
No, she's in her cage. You didn't hear her growling, did you?
I will. I would love to.
Thank you. Okay, next is the 2025 Election Services Agreement with Cache County. Ryan, this is yours.
Yeah, I'll start, and then Ty will be able to add anything he'd like. But ultimately, we have looked, and Ty has worked with the county, and this agreement is for about the same cost as it was 2 years ago. We feel that it's pretty fair, and we certainly would recommend approval of this. In the option that you don't want to have the county, keep in mind that this year we don't have equipment or staffing to necessarily take it over right away. So if you don't want to do county services for these kind of things in the future, it would be best the more
Time.
lead time you can give us,
10
the better, because then we can get equipment and we can get trained and we can get some of those. We realize this is coming in April, and the first elections will come, I think it's August, if we have a primary. So at that point, there is some lead time in some of those equipment and training and some of that. So keep in mind that if you approve this one, we would recommend that you approve this one tonight. But if you decide that you don't want to stay with the county, give us lead time. Otherwise, if you're ready and it's great with you to stay with the county and it's good for us, then we would we'd proceed on with these kind of things as long as the county's willing. But anyway, just to kind of give you that. Ty, anything you wanted to add to that?
No, but I have heard from other clerks that a lot of other counties and services have increased their rates, so it's good that our county has basically stayed the same. Of course, if we don't have that primary, that saves us that $12,000. So see how it goes.
So there you go. Any questions you have for either of us?
I have a question, just because I know this was something that was discussed quite a bit at the legislature, and I should know if I had looked up all the bills, but what changes did they make as
The
far as
election
mail-in,
laws?
to the election laws, as far as mail-in ballots versus physical
Some of those won't take
collection?
effect on they won't take effect on this election, but I think they take effect in the 26, 28. There's a few years.
Yeah. Well, one of the big ones was voter registration identification. Voter registration identification changed a little bit. They're going to be requiring a little more information for people who register to vote. I think maybe photo ID. But yeah, nothing this year, no changes this year. Then yeah.
But that voter registration is good for 3 years? Was it 3 or 5?
I thought it was 3 years.
Okay, it seems to me like that's what it was 3 years.
I don't know if this new law changes that and makes everyone redo it, but yeah, no major changes this year that make us have any issues. So
That's one of the things that I said, what is the problem we're trying to fix? And no one could tell me.
Okay. Any other questions?
Do they give you any like extra reports with the election service with this agreement? Do
They give us
besides
reports
just
on our
these are the
numbers.
numbers? Do they give you like a more detailed report?
We did have some additional information when we.
like they give us the canvas, come November, they'll break it out of how many votes went to which person, how many votes were counted. That comes.
Any kind of report you're looking
I
for?
don't know, just if there's any more detail to an election service besides a few numbers.
Mostly just the numbers. Some
Yeah.
we can get it by precinct if there's precinct that they've done by, or they'll tell us what the percentages from other cities. So that's a nice thing that we can see how well our percentage of election registered voters vote. We can see they showed, I think they showed us a comparison last year of how well our voter turnout was compared to each of the other cities they did. So they can give us comparative statistics on some things like that. And we've gotten
Just
that.
curious. I mean, you could break it down in a lot of different ways, but just wondering.
I went down probably 4 years ago and watched what they do to count the votes and all the checks and balances that were in it. It was a pretty interesting process down at the county. So
Weren't they audited by the lieutenant governor's office
They were.
last year? I guess they resolved all of their.
I hope so.
it was the head that was, there wasn't a problem with the votes, with the counting. It was some other stuff that was going on in that
It's
office.
changed.
They have a new
They have a new clerk.
auditor.
They resolved all those things.
Yeah.
But yeah, some issues with the documentation that he submitted.
Flawed.
Yeah, everything was good. The numbers, the counting, all that was legit.
The voting stuff was okay.
In the future, is this something we want to do? We seem to like to do things, we like to do garbage and we like to do.
I support the county doing this.
You like to
they
have
have
them do this one
they
too?
have
Okay.
this down to an art. They do all the most if not all the other cities. They have an election every year because the county is on the general election side of the non-municipal, and then they do the municipal. So they're doing an election every year. For us, it would be every other year. Staffing for that event, getting people to come.
Getting people trained, and,
yeah,
buying the
having-
equipment.
Having done it in a previous city, I like the county doing it. So I have had a clerk and we have done it municipal wise, and I've seen it here, and I think it works pretty well this way. So
We don't
support it
want
this
any
way.
hanging chads. Remember that?
I remember it too. And each church house had a box set up, and went all through. Like, one question for you, Ryan, on this: how long is this contract good for again?
Just this election.
Okay, I think they'll have to incorporate the changes that the legislature has put in. I see some things in here. I thought, and maybe I'm wrong, but I thought they wouldn't mail them out anymore. You had to pick them up.
That would be, so this election doesn't have those
Right.
changes, but the next election would have some of that. So not this one, but 2
Right, the
years
next
from
one,
now
you have to
would
pick
some.
up your ballot.
Yeah.
Or you
So
have to
we'd
request
a different
it, don't you?
contract for them.
I think you have to request it.
Yeah. So there's some changes that have to be made for that one. There will be some education and changes, but this is the counting and servicing of the ballots
For the upcoming
for
election
this
year.
upcoming election this year.
Okay.
So, and it just is for this one. They'll create other numbers and do other pricing to do that when that comes out in another 2 years.
I think I'm ready to make a motion.
Okay, let's have it.
Okay, I would make a motion that we accept the interlocal cooperation agreement regarding full election services from Cache County. Anyway, accept that contract.
Okay.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. Further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay. This next item is a wholesale access agreement for our fiber. And Ryan, I'm going to give you this one.
Okay. So the base of this is trying to provide a level of service that is that we're not currently providing. So this is the ability to lease, rent some of the dark fiber services. So dark fiber in this context would be non-ISP service. So this is something that is prior to passing the service on to an ISP. For instance, we utilize dark fiber or the wholesale side to run our camera system. Some of the customers that would fit under this kind of an agreement would be banks that want to have a backbone network not going out to the internet through an ISP and then coming back to their other sites. But this would allow them to lease from site to site through from point A to point B and then to point C. So the idea is this would allow us to be able to utilize if Zions Bank, for instance, wants to connect their branch in Providence to the branch in Logan without going through an ISP and then back through a virtual security, a physical security, they could connect on a wholesale or dark fiber side and connect that through. We don't have a lot of customers that we expect that would do this, but some of the banks have expressed that they might be interested in coming on if we had something that way. It's more of a circuit level rather than a service level. We still would get our base rate through it, so we're still getting our revenue. It's ones that then they could retail out. We connect on a similar type of agreement through Utopia from us to Social Hall, and some of those connections we have that circuit type connection through there, and so if Syringa wanted to provide to the UEN network, right now they would if Syringa wanted to provide it, they would come in and run a new fiber to any of the schools and connect through their fiber. This potentially could allow us to let them utilize our fiber from the school to their network or to the end of our network. Certainly, it's a new thing for us. I've given this agreement to a couple of the ISPs to get some feedback there. I've given this agreement to Utopia to see what they have, see if it truly works out. Certainly, we don't know. I can't tell you this is a perfect agreement. It is something that we can agree to and have for a period of time. And then, as any agreement that we're paving new ground, we'll need to watch what this does and see if it's something that we expand, continue, change in the future. But I'm not going to tell you that this is the perfect start. This is where the start that we have come with between Strata and my discussions and the feedback I've gotten from others. I've sent it to Syringa for their feedback. So I've tried to recruit other feedback of other people that know better than I do, because I am limited knowledge inside of wholesale, because that's not what we've done. Some of the reasons why we may not is saying, hey, we built this for residential service. We like residential service. That's what was underserved. Maybe we feel that this is a space that it isn't underserved. It is a different revenue service. We certainly don't want it to take over the ISPs that we've brought onto the network, and where we have some loyalty to that. That's why this isn't an exclusive agreement. But so anyway, that's where the effort is tied to. I would expect that we would have somewhere between 3 and 25 customers that might fit this, so it's one, whether you're ready now, whether you want to study it, whether you want to do something different. Open. This is kind of the first one. We have got Strata at least to agree that this is workable on their side, and if we want to fine tune on our side, we certainly can. Otherwise, we can adopt and learn as we grow. But either way, it's really up to what you want to do. But I could only see this happening for large network item customers that have multiple sites. This isn't a single site. So residents would not benefit from this at all. So anyway.
So this is a change in strategy from what we have. So we're adding to the services that we would provide. It's another revenue stream that's over and above what our citizens would have. And the question we have to ask is it going to hurt our residents and services that we can provide to the residents? And how do we make sure that we don't have everybody going, cool, we're all going to jump on? So how do we write our contract in such a way that we can control, measure, make sure that we're providing the services to the people that we started out to provide that service?
So can this service be extended outside the city?
No, we don't have dark fiber outside the city, so there's nothing. So if there is a service inside the city, that's what this would cover. If it's a fiber outside the city, then they would need to, whoever's fiber that is, they'd need agreement with them to wholesale over that. So if somebody wanted to come and package from point A in Providence to point F in Logan, they would have to get everybody that has fiber and have a handhold between and connect it through that wholesale. So no, we couldn't provide this outside because we don't own the dark fiber outside. Now, if we went and bought dark fiber from us to to Timbuktu and we wanted to do that, you know, some other cities like American Fork has fiber in I-15 and that they have, so they could do this through that kind of a thing. But we don't have and we don't own any fiber outside. So for us, our agreement is solely contained within the fiber we own, but somebody would possibly lease some from us and lease some from Google Fiber and Utopia, and they could get from point A to point B. The other benefit for us is we don't want to have 3 to 5 to 10 different fiber companies all putting fiber lines in the ground and having 10 different providers in our street. We're hoping to facilitate our fiber in multiple ways so that we can provide that, but at that point still keep our conduit and fiber and be able to utilize it so that we avoid the extra connection. So if somebody wanted to come in, and we've had the example, somebody wants to come in and provide to Blackstone or Chick-fil-A, but they want a different provider that we don't have on our network. There's a few ways we could do that, and one of those avenues could be this. That could be. So anyway.
What about if
Could also
Riverhide-
be adding
Okay.
ISPs to our network.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Could also add an ISP to the network. For instance, Blackstone has discussed that they have Xmission, which isn't an ISP, which we've talked about. So they could be an ISP added to our network. Absolutely. We've invited Comcast and Syringa, and one of those, and I don't remember which off the top of my head, was the one that wanted to run a fiber to Chick-fil-A. Well, we don't have them on our network, and they've rejected to come on our network. But the question is do we want our fiber's already there? Do we want their fiber there too? Do we care? And I don't know. But
Well,
like you said, it's
Getting
not a
the
perfect
camel's
one. It's
nose
some-
in the tent is not a good idea.
Anyway, this is truly a learning opportunity. So if you want to delve deep, I'm happy to postpone and delve deep with you. If you're comfortable with it, I'm happy to stay comfortable with it. I'm willing to come at whatever level you want. So I've tried to formulate the best agreement with the advice and information I could gather to get to this point.
Are we in any rush right now?
I don't
Or
have anybody that is
People like
waiting on the.
Chick-fil-A or
I don't have anybody that's waiting right on the hook that's ready to do this service if we signed it today.
what does Chick-fil-A want? Don't they?
We just
do
use
they
them as a,
decide- Or do
they're-
they just took into
I
our
don't think
fiber
they've
and they don't care?
Well, we have our fiber that will be to them.
Right.
They have others that they've talked to that would run a parallel fiber to them. And if we could say, hey, instead of doing that, just come and use wholesale agreement over us, you can still be your provider, you can still connect, you just get wholesale over top to get the last mile for that provider. That's potential for some of these. If they're not a large customer, I mean, like I said, residential will never actually work on this because the only ones that are working on this is those that have multiple site connections that they want to use to connect to. That's
and that have to be secure.
yeah. Otherwise, you have to have an ISP to get out to the network, and nobody's going to pay these kind of fees residentially to get that connected. Sorry.
Or did you have first?
Go ahead. Do you have a question?
I'm just wondering, so how much dark fiber capacity would we have to service, say every household residentially signed up, and then we had wholesale agreements with X number of, can we
Yeah, that's
service
a
or
great
limited, or what's
That's
the-
a great question. So as I understand the network, and that was one of the number differences between Strata and the city, and I believe they have said that they built to a 3,500 connection number. We had 2,700, but they built to a 3,500 with a 1.5 times capacity rate. So at that point, we have a little over 1,800 on. If we had full, so at that point, 3,500 at 1.5 times is somewhere in 5,200 something. But if we have 1,800 on, and we have 1.5 times capacity, then we could fit that. And that's within our current footprint. So if we were on the west side of the highway, we would add a pond cabinet and then distribute that. So we're prepared to put an extra pond cabinet, which we have 6 of them in the city. We would be prepared to put another one on the west side of the highway, and then we could service another 600 to 800 connections out of that. And we would add pond, with our network built, we have a pond system that we can add ponds as we go and need. We have a certain number that we have to backhaul with, but we can add a pond cabinet, which then splits that and separates it out. So the capacity wise, with the few that is expected, I don't see that this is a capacity issue, because we would, honestly, it would be a route that we would provide either to an ISP or to this. We would provide the same, it's similar route, little different connection spots, but we would provide that as a fairly similar. So I don't see us running out of spots in that sense. This isn't going to be, I mean, if we got 1,800 on this, it would be phenomenal. But that's just not. It's
No,
just
that
not
wasn't
realistic.
that wasn't really what I
Other
was thinking.
fiber
But
people
just
across the state.
Can we service residential if that expanded? And it sounds like we can
Yeah.
increase capacity.
Yeah, this would be really in our commercial area that I think that this would even be applicable, and we're already planned for 1.5 times every commercial facility to come on. We're already built there. So to have this, we've already kind of expected some of the capacity. It's just it would be in a different connection method.
Right.
So
And say we have a wholesale connection that ends in Providence. We're talking about that. But what if it runs just through Providence? I assume if they're using our network, regardless of where it ends, then that's applies to this agreement.
right. Right. If they're going to use ours through us, then they pay a fee to us to use us even through it. Like if we connect on to Millville at some point and they say, hey, we'd like to have a connection through you to us, you know, that's potential. Or maybe a cell tower comes in and wants to connect in Millville, but you know, they're close to our fiber and say, hey, you know, can we lease fiber from you from point A to C, and then they take it from D to F or whatever. So anyway, that's what it's intended to be.
Thank you.
So what we're talking about tonight is looking at a departure from what we've been doing to
Really just
add
adding
this
a
to our
layer.
service.
It's adding a different layer of
Right.
We don't currently allow anybody to lease our dark fiber. The only one that's using dark fiber on our side is the city, and we do utilize it to connect to all of our water sites and any of our parks with a building facility.
Right.
Isn't it already an option in our network operator agreement for us to do these point-to-point connections? I mean, my understanding is that it is. I don't know that we need to make a separate agreement with Strata.
It
And I
doesn't have
feel
a
like
pricing inside of there to do that.
There's not a
establishes
pricing.
This
Okay.
establishes pricing to do that. So this is
But
is an
that's like
ad.
one option out of like 5 in the.
Yeah, so that operator agreement commits them to be able to provide this service, but this service creates the method and the pricing to do it. So they can't do it without this.
Okay. I also was concerned about, there's no really limitations or restrictions for someone leasing it from us and then using it, basically as a sidestep to our ISP contract process. So, at least the way I read it, I don't want to circumvent the structure that we already have set up to do. We have ISP agreements for a reason because they protect us, right? They protect the city. And so, I mean, I feel like it needs.
Should reward the ISPs before giving it to Strata. Is that what you're kind of?
Strata's an ISP and an operator, so they have.
How does the ISP and the operator, yeah.
They are on it in that sense too. This still has Strata in the operation role. it does take out an ISP, but the way it's worded is because it's not exclusive. The intent is other ISPs could utilize that to get to an endpoint.
To go point to point. But I guess to me, I just think, why would we say you can use the last mile for Comcast or Xmission or some other ISP when we intentionally built an open access network? If they want access to it, just sign the ISP agreement and use the open access for your last mile. I mean, to me, that is what makes sense.
That would work.
It would meet that need. And it gives us protections. But I mean, I would suggest that we just table it and kind of fine-tooth comb it a little bit more, just because it's not, and make sure that we're protecting ourselves. You know, that I know that we have a partnership with Strata, but I feel like to me, the benefit of that partnership, and I know they've been here in meetings before and argued differently, is that we have this opportunity to create this open access model. And I feel like we have done our part in that, and we don't owe them access to do wholesale. Because like you said, we do need the rate structure for it, which we can certainly pursue that further, but I don't know. I just want to make sure that it's
So what you're saying is
primarily in our favor.
we don't need to do a separate kind of agreement because we already have one.
Yeah, we do. We have one already. But we don't, the rates are not in the network operator agreement. So that
But
is definitely a piece that
The
needs
wholesale
addressed.
side they can't wholesale. They can provide connection services through it and manage it for us. They would manage that wholesale agreement connection to others. They would manage that wholesale for us under this agreement. But they can't market wholesale agreements without this agreement. This has to be in place for them to be able to do, just like their ISP agreement had to be in place for them to provide ISP services. So we have a Strata agreement for them to provide operating, but we have a Strata agreement for them to provide ISP.
So if we had someone else come and want to provide wholesale services, I don't think that this particular contract is modeled to replicate that because like there's so many things that are at the discretion of Strata that I think we should be in the driver's seat for. So
Would it be best to have an idea in mind what somebody was after before we try and draft an agreement that's going to be one size fits a lot? In other words, since it's new, since it's something we're not doing, and it's something that we didn't really intend on doing for the city, would it be best to see if there's a need, or do we want to try and market this contract and say we have dark fiber available? What is the goal here? What are we trying to do?
The goal here would be adding a revenue source. That's the end goal for what this agreement would do is add a revenue source that we're not allowed or not currently utilizing. So that would be goal number one. Goal number two is to prevent multiple providers of multiple layers of fiber to be buried in the ground. If an exterior ISP comes in, but because we still have franchise agreements with Comcast and Syringa that could lay fiber throughout our entire city. And if they wanted or needed to provide it, they have a franchise agreement to be able to put that in if they chose to do it. Now, they're not going to choose to do it to everywhere. We know that. But if they chose to cherry pick it off, they could certainly do that through their franchise agreement. This gives an avenue that prevents some of that because, for instance, we had Utopia wanted to go to the school. And we said, well, let's see what we can do. Utopia would like to use this agreement to add the schools onto the UEN network. That's what they'd like to do. So then they don't have to run the fiber all the way through. before we visited with Blackstone and talked about X-Mission, they wanted to either do something like this, which Strata said, we don't have that ability now because the city doesn't have an agreement with us to wholesale fiber. So at that point, Strata told Blackstone, no, we can't provide the ask that you're providing because we don't have that, and so we can't wholesale a route to you. Now we found that avenue might be with X-Mission, and but this is an interest to a company like Blackstone, and I've visited with them about this agreement. They are interested. I'd prefer them to do the X-Mission option, but if they don't do X-Mission as a ISP, the ISP option, I'd like them to be an ISP option. But if they don't do an ISP option, then one customer to be able to serve rather than have a second line of fiber to theirs. So we've put in our infrastructure, and then and then Utopia put in theirs parallel to us. To Blackstone makes it so that our fiber won't ever be used.
So this is making, if I hear what you're saying, it's making the businesses in our city, so to speak, exclusive. We have a right to have other companies use our fiber to service business. Black Fiber, is that right?
Reduces exclusivity, right? But allows that infrastructure to be over our fiber rather than them putting in their own.
Rather than put in their own. So it does protect us in that respect.
Absolutely. In that respect, then we have a way to say, hey, Utopia, FiberTel, Google Fiber, I mean, we're getting some others that are competing for that. And what it does is it says, hey, instead of you providing your own fiber parallel to ours and have a redundancy, or a second one, just lease the fiber from us, then we have the point-to-point connection. We have the management inside of our city, but we're allowing more to add on than just a few ISPs. And it would be a one-off issues. This is a through that, because they're committed to their ISP. They don't want to have a location.
So this sounds like to me, back to it, it sounds like to me that we are basically from us.
It gives another avenue to protect the turf.
Yeah.
Yes, you can look at it that way. That's not exactly the wording I wanted to use, but yes, yeah.
Ryan,
yeah.
Grass grows
do
green.
We have a fiber meeting tomorrow. Maybe we should talk to some of the other cities and see what their wholesale experience has been. Any issues that they've had. Any gotchas they've already found out.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
I think at that point American Fork probably has something, because they have fiber that they have an I-15, and I understand that they have some lease of that. I think it's a great idea. I think being able to propose it to some of those,
Let's
I do
not
think it's
reinvent the
good
wheel.
for the city to understand what this is and the avenue we're going. But I think it's a great idea to be able to present it there. It didn't time-wise for that meeting to happen before this meeting. It's tomorrow. But so anyway, but a good introduction, or think about it and formulate other questions. I think that's good. And if you want to redline some of those, I'd be happy to sit down and visit with you on getting into the nitty gritty, why we chose to do some things versus other things, and maybe your brilliant mind will help us to get somewhere else, and that'll be great.
I don't know.
So if someone
think that sounds
comes
smart.
to
Two
us,
heads is better than one, so
so if somebody comes to
whole room of
us
heads.
and says, we want to dig up your streets and put fiber in your town, do we have the ability to say no?
If they have a franchise agreement, no. We don't have that. If they don't have a franchise
Oh,
agreement,
Utopia doesn't have a franchise agreement with us.
that's correct.
So they
But
can't
Comcast
just do
does.
that.
Comcast does.
Yes.
Syringa
So they
is
could come in.
CenturyLink? Are
What's
they the-
that?
Syringa, is that CenturyLink?
No,
So we have a franchise agreement with Syringa?
CenturyLink.
CenturyLink, yeah.
Okay.
But we may not have a franchise agreement, but both CenturyLink CenturyLink, Comcast, Syringa, and Utopia all have fiber within inside of our city. So, and FiberTel.
But they haven't
All
asked to
five.
install at the street level.
They have through permit some before we started our fiber, but each of those have so Utopias came before Syringas came. In fact, we were on Syringas in Providence prior to us getting our own network. That's who serviced us.
City, yeah.
So we have others that are inside of the city, and it's really hard to refuse a permit. But if it's Comcast, we really can't unless we can provide them
install
another
on every
avenue
street.
in
they want.
hopes to provide another avenue. And this is part of that hope. They won't do one, maybe they'll do another, and if they would, it'd certainly be better than none.
But this is not ironclad. This just gives them an option for us to come to the table and talk to them with it. Is that correct?
It is true. It is true.
Do you know when those franchise agreements expire offhand?
Years. They usually sign them for like a 20 to 30 year period, 15 to 30 year period. So I think we're at least 7 years out from the next one. Don't you think? Yeah. I mean, I've read through them. We've found different ones and tried to read through them, but there is a long time and a difficult out.
Yeah.
So this would maybe help some of those. I don't know whether they will, but maybe for some, especially where when fiber's coming more to the area, which is good, which we like, but it also, we want to have one network, but we don't want Google Fiber to run to just the cherry pick the best customers and we have to subsidize that because we can't utilize our services in those areas but we do have, at least 5 other fiber providers that have cherry picked at least a spot off. So, and we currently backhaul over Utopia. So they're in our city because we need them. Because that's who we
It's part of
wholesale
our main
from.
line,
What's
right?
that?
Isn't that part of our main line connection?
Yeah. Utopia offers part of our main line through
How we
a
get it
wholesale
here.
agreement that Strata has with them, that they have that way. But we're not part of that one, but
So it sounds like we have enough questions that tonight's not the night that we're going to vote on this to accept it or reject it. So if we want to have a vote to continue it, we can do that.
Make a motion that we table it, continue it. Is there a difference?
continuing it would be continuing it to the next meeting. That's what we would probably, if you want to discuss and delve in and it's a possibility, then let's continue it to the next meeting. If you want to table it and maybe it comes back up and maybe it doesn't and oftentimes won't, tabling or discarding would be kind of the other, I don't know the term for discarding, but whatever. Anyway.
Delete.
Well, I mean, I'm fine to continue it, but it doesn't seem
And down the
time
road.
sensitive. And I know we do our tentative budget next month. So if the agenda is full, I don't feel like it needs to be continued to May. It can continue somewhere else. That's what.
Did you make a motion to table it?
Well, we're just talking about tabling versus
Yeah, I was just wondering
continuing.
if she did.
So continuing means we have to bring it back next month. Tabling it means we can bring it back when we want.
We can certainly bring it back to the next one and have it on the end of the agenda. And if we don't have time, we can
You make a motion.
Continue it again.
Yeah.
continue it again.
Let's do that.
Sounds good.
Continue and continue.
If we need to, we
I
might not
think we
need
ought to
to.
continue it
We might get
so we don't lose it.
enlightened tomorrow.
Kick the can down the road. Actually.
I like the flexibility to be able to continue it if we want to, if we don't get the answers that we think that we need. And if there's not enough time on the agenda next time, if it's at the last one, then we can say we can just continue it to the next one. I'd rather have that flexibility.
Of which meeting to put it on?
Hmm. Well,
Just-
if we can't get to it next
And-
month, then we can just push it to the next month.
All right, I still don't get semantics why it matters if I say table or continue, because I think we can make that determination either way, right? No?
Mhm.
Yes?
Yeah, at that point, the mayor's over the agenda, so
That's true. You are.
Let's continue
Lucky
it.
you. I'll make a motion to continue it.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion I think everybody said aye. Anybody in negative? Motion carries. Okay, no plans, no study items, staff reports.
I also went to the league meeting. You've covered it fairly well. I also prior to that I was at the city manager conference, and I really enjoy the city manager conference, meeting with those other city managers and learning and growing from them. One of the things that really stood out to me is one of the keynotes talked about heroes versus villains. And sometimes it's easy to recognize a hero and a villain, or at least we think it is. But they brought up Darth Vader, and is he a hero or a villain? And you know, we talked about how much of a hero he is, and how much of a father he wanted to spend time with his kids and be able to really do that and you know, lead an organization, and really there were a lot of good qualities. In the end, there were a lot of good qualities, but you never know, and really there aren't just, it isn't black and white enough that there's hero and villain. There is good in all, and we have to be able to work together. So I thought it was very enlightening on being able to look outside the black and white box. And when we kind of put people and put them and say, oh, you know, that's certainly a hero. But maybe there's some things that they have flaws, and those that we find as villains might have pluses, and we look at people just as a whole rather than trying to get them in one or the other. So anyway, I thought that was good. That was good for me. I appreciate being able to go on vacation. I took a vacation over spring break, and I certainly appreciate that. And we have a great staff that was able to fill in and take care of anything that came up while I was out. And I appreciate you letting me take that time. It was a good time with my family, and so thank you. So the west side of the highway, the sewer. So the force main is mostly in. The lift station, the wet well of the lift station is being delivered soon. They have started putting in the trench box and being able to dewater in preparation for that. The contract to have the force main done and the road open back up was the end of May. And you'll see they were 6 weeks ahead. And we're quite excited about that. Now, a lot of people felt the road was closed for so long, and we understand. But we're still pretty tickled pink that they opened it as quick as they did, and we're really conscious of that. So we have had some really good communication and success with having Geneva on and us managing that. I think the more we look at that, the more it was just the right decision for us to take that and manage it and bid that project out. Anyway, we learned.
The really great part is that now the whole south end understands how valuable that road is.
Yeah, it's highlighted it. And when 12th South closes next week or so, they'll certainly know it again. So there's probably some closure. They've been waiting to close 12th South.
Which is the one that goes around.
Yeah, they've been waiting to close that until we opened. And so
That would've been a mess.
anyway, they're now be able to catch up to where they were at. And so so that's going to happen right where the new hotels come in. Anyway, just to give you an idea. But that sewer expansion is going on track for us. and so we're happy with our contractor, happy with the progress. Met with a contractor we have had in our plans. We're trying to wrap up the projects for this year. One of those projects is a generator, emergency generator for this building, so that we could utilize this as an operation center and things in case of an emergency. This would be a location that would continue to have power, and so that's been a big work. It should, the generator should be started to come in the next couple weeks. We're still expecting to have that project completed before the end of the fiscal year. It will be on the east side of the building there, under the stairs. So anyway, that's what the construction there will be when you see that. But at this point, that's to provide so that we can continue the operation of services from this building if something were to happen in an emergency. So we are looking for emergency response, and Brent brought up emergency as far as social media. We are much more connected on our social media than we have been in years past. When Megan came on, she has really helped to accelerate our communication out there, and we are very much more connected than we've ever been at this point in that realm. So I'm glad to hear that they're talking about that, and I'm glad to hear that we're working on that. So anyway,
they encouraged every council member to watch social media for the reaction of the public to the things that happen in city council, to know their crisis, to know where they're dealing with. So, yeah.
If you see crises out there, please let us know. If there's something that's brewing on social media that may be in your neighborhood or maybe in your feed that is coming, the sooner that we can help and get out correct information, accurate information, that is certainly a plus.
I'll surely give it to you as I see it.
Thank you.
I don't get
Thank you. So, the RAPs met. I haven't heard back the results, so we're still waiting on our results there. One of the grants for the Hillcrest Park, they've told us that we didn't get that one. We still have two out there that we haven't heard from yet. The tentative budget, the pre-tentative budget, I sent out because it's a different methodology. I am working to try to move from or at least see if it's better and open to it, but moving from a straight Excel-based presentation to more of a narrative-based presentation. So some of that, so as Carrie talks, it's I think 60 plus pages. It'll get bigger. My goal is to keep it under 100, and so anyway, that's kind of my goal. I have written them in the past for the budget award, and they're a little over 250 or so pages. So I have been writing those, but I haven't been utilizing that in this print. So some of that's already been done, but a software company helped me to draft some of those pieces. I have a lot of pieces of that puzzle, but moving away from the software to help and bringing it into to a Word or PDF file. So anyway, that is a change, and if you don't like it, I'm always happy to go back to Excel because I really do like Excel. So if it's not gold star worthy, I'm willing to go back to the Excel because I really that's well within my comfort level. But I've used AI to help. I've used some other tools. I'm really trying to expand and grow so that I can be better for the city. Have met, the mayor and I met, and Janelle met with some of the residents, address some of their ideas and issues, and I've tried to work to respond to any of those. So as I get questions and issues, I really try to make sure that I'm not always as great as Carrie is to respond to everyone, but I certainly try to make sure.
Perfect.
Anyway, But if you, my goal is to try to do as that is to respond to each one I get. So, if something falls through the cracks, I'm always happy to take a second reminder if somebody out there hasn't felt like I've gotten it quick enough. A second reminder doesn't offend me. I get a lot of emails and a lot of things, so I'm trying to work through all those. So if it delays, feel free to remind. So anyway, other things we're working out on just to complete our projects and then get ready for the budget and then the new projects for the next year. So anyway, that's kind of where we're at. So any questions, anything you'd like me to work on? Yeah.
I was just wondering, has there been any movement toward getting a crosswalk on Center Street and Second West? There's a number of kids that cross right there, and I've just wondered.
No, we visited with some county and we don't get much traction there, to be honest. Second West is a county road.
We even took some of them for a ride.
So do we have to wait till a child gets run over?
I hope not. I never want that to happen.
That is so. Those kids there's quite a bit of traffic on Second West is in the afternoon, around about 3 o'clock.
In the morning, you can't even walk across there.
Maybe what we need to do is, as council members, reach out to our county council representatives that we know and put bugs in their ears. Be like, this is a problem and we've reached out and no one responds to us. Because we cannot put a sidewalk on the west side because no one will fund it. Because of the canal and the county, and it's county road. Cannot's not the right word, but we're having a hard time funding that because we have one on the other side, but there's no direct way to get there. I mean, you go over to the corner, but why would a teenager go to the corner?
And
They
those
would
kids
never do
come up that new
I don't know.
path that we put in at the park,
Yeah.
and they want to cross there and go home there, and it's a serious concern. I don't know who to contact. I'd like to be involved in contacting people. I drive bus through there every day, and it's a serious concern.
Agreed.
Who do we contact? Who do we get a hold of?
Catherine?
Gephardt?
That's it.
That's one way.
Well, Catherine is our representative, and we took her for a ride along Second West, talking about the traffic that's on there and the state of the road. And we
Some
talked to her
some
and
issues
said-
with the Second West is that the county would like to abdicate their authority, abdicate their responsibility on Second West and parse it out. As they have abdicated several other types of responsibility, it would be nice for them to do it. They should do it, and we'll continue to ask them to do it. We've offered oftentimes to paint it. We haven't been out painting our own, I shouldn't promote to violate laws.
Just
but-
accidentally spill some paint there.
In stripes.
So anyway,
If each council member took a stripe, we'd have it.
We can all go
But
to jail.
it only needs 2 stripes. Only
they
need
can
2
put some on
stripes.
Okay, I was thinking of the hash.
Couldn't talk
marks.
to
Doesn't have to have the hash. It can just have the lines. So anyway,
So Halloween vandalism in April.
uh,
I got some
Ap-
students who like
For
to
some
paint.
kids.
I was going to say April Fool's Day, but maybe May 1st.
Cinco de Mayo. There you
Cinco
go.
de Mayo Day. Maybe May 4th. Maybe it's a, these are not the lines you're looking for. I don't know.
Hmm. Yeah.
We can work on it from our end.
Yeah.
Um,
If you have an opportunity to visit,
I don't know what should be better, because the sidewalk or the walking strip that goes down the park actually lines up with the south side of the street better than it does the north side.
yeah, we'd like to do the south side because it lines up with the
Right.
sidewalk and the path on the other
But
side.
then the kids, they got to cross and go across this way. They are cutting across to the entranceway to the park and then going over and walking down through there. But if there were lines painted to give them some direction, serious lines, and parents would take the time to teach their children to follow the crosswalk for their safety and protection, that would certainly help.
Not a lack of teaching.
They won't go to the corner, or we already have one.
What's that?
They don't go to the corner where it's already painted.
It's true.
Well,
Parents are
There is one
well,
there.
but
failing.
but the problem is they cut diagonally across
Yeah,
because
yeah.
there's the sidewalk they want to go up goes up to the school.
Yeah, no,
And the same thing at night when they come home. They want to go across
Super dangerous
diagonally
then.
and go down that path. It's a concern, a real concern. I hope we don't have to wait till somebody gets killed there or run over. Anyway, thank you.
All right, that would be my report if you have anything else.
Okay. Sounds good. Ty, you didn't have anything to add?
Just to put on the record, I guess, for anyone listening, Candidate Declaration Week will be the first week in June. That is something that they did change. It used to be just the 1st to the 7th, regardless of whether it was a weekend or not. So that first Monday through Friday, 8 to 5, you're welcome to come in if you're looking to run for one of the open seats.
Okay. Scarlett, did you want to add anything?
Just that I had two of my kids take a plethora of grandkids to your Easter egg hunt. And those two kids both fed Easter bunnies in their time frame when they were youth counselors. But they really praised the way it was organized, and I just wanted to pass it along since they knew the work because they've done it before a long time ago, and so but they were really impressed. So good job.
Carrie and her group
Hear from the experts.
make it look easy. They really do. And it really is a great service. Dividing the kids up into age groups is just a marvelous idea. So congratulations. It was great. Thank you.
Von Bear Park is such a fun venue for that hunt. Like, that's the other feedback. Like, at first the parents are like, wait, our kids are like in 3 different places. What are we supposed to do? And but then by the end, and they're 9 to 12-year-olds are like out hunting for 30 minutes, like looking for like really truly hunting. It becomes really fun.
Yeah. It's great. Thank you for the feedback on that. Okay. If we don't have anything else, I'll entertain a motion to disband.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion second. All in favor?
Hi.
Opposed? Okay. 8:30. We're good.